Time I would yield such time as she may consume the gentlelady from Puerto Rico, Ms. González-Colón.
The gentlewoman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to say, first of all, thank you to Chairman Grace for his leadership and for acting so swiftly to bring this bill to the floor of the House. And I proudly rise in support of my bill, H.R. 255. I will also like to thank Representatives Scott Peters from California and Stacey Plaskett of the U.S. Virgin Islands and Neil Dunn from Florida for co-sponsoring this legislation. I think H.R. 255 will establish a process to identify ways to streamline and consolidate the collection of certain disaster information to start the recovery process for individuals and families that were devastated by any natural disaster. I hear about these issues with delays and confusion related to requirements and processing of disaster assistance on a regular basis. I meet with the mayors of the island, and this is just the case of Puerto Rico, but I do know we do have the same process and the same situation across the nation. And this is a significant source of frustration for my mayors, for my constituents, as well as the people all over the country. While FEMA is the lead agency, federal agency on disaster, many others are also often involved in disaster response and recovery, like, for example, the Department of Housing and Urban Development and the Small Business Administration, just to name a few. In the aftermath of Hurricane Irma and Maria in 2017 and the seismic activity in Puerto Rico in 2020, we discovered that the federal agency after federal agency will require the same information in their preliminary assessments, which meant tens of thousands of site and damage assessments. And we see some of this repeating itself in the aftermath of last year's Hurricane Fiona in Puerto Rico, and Hurricane Ian in Florida, and with other disasters across the nation. So this is not just a bill for the islands or the territories. This is a bill for the rest of the nation and how to manage and get expedited help in response from federal agencies. Currently, there is no process to share this assessment among federal agencies, which ultimately causes significant delays for immediate relief and prolongs recovery. And this is compounded by other administrative issues like frequent staff changes and constituents and mayors having to work with multiple personnel to handle a single application or request. In 2020, FEMA finally decided to begin consolidating assessments for Puerto Rico just to speed up the project delivery process across multiple federal agencies. Many of these assessments are small, often one part of a larger project, which has continuously slowed down the recovery process. H.R. 255 will establish a federal working group led by FEMA in collaboration with the Council of Inspector Generals on Integrity and Efficiency to identify ways to reduce duplication and to modernize the federal management assessment process to make it truly agile and efficient. And we need to ensure assistance is provided while safeguarding taxpayers' funds. And I think with this bill we can do both. I think it's critical that these agencies are working together to minimize overlaps in their assessments and consider the use of the newest technologies to streamline processes. Very often we met in a Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, and we have this same discussion about what happened in Louisiana, about what happened in Florida, what happened in the Eastern Coast, what happened in the West Coast every time we do have a natural disaster. And always is the same problem. I trust this bill will expedite disaster recovery across the nation. And as we learn in my own backyard, Puerto Rico, it's not if the next disaster will occur, is when it's going to happen and how we're going to face it. Every 1st of June, another hurricane season begins for the territories and the Eastern Coast. And since the last time this language passed the House in the 117th Congress, we have another direct hit with Hurricane Fiona. I am pleased that we are considering this bill so early in this 118th Congress, And that's the reason I thank our chairman for his marvelous job bringing this bill to the floor. And I can therefore work quickly to make this proposal the law of the land as part of our efforts to better prepare